And here we go. So I'm going to be sharing the screen with you and taking you through all the different things about stress, okay? Before I do that, for people who have not heard me speak before, they don't know who I am, they don't know where I'm coming from, my name is Dr. Saliha Afridi, clinical psychologist and the managing director and founder of the LightHouse Arabia, which is a mental health and wellness center in Suqeim, Dubai. We have about 30 clinicians, making us one of the largest clinics in the region to serve mental health. We serve all ages, couples, families, adults, etc., etc. So we have a very, very qualified team. We are also the house of mental health first aid in the UAE. So we are the only licensed provider in the UAE to give you mental health first aid. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I really encourage you to go online and read about mental health first aid, which trains you to be a first responder. I do want to mention that we have occupational therapy as well as speech therapy and psychiatry, which is the medication management. And then these are usually for children who are having developmental delays or speech delays. We do have these services as well. For those of you who feel like, oh, I feel I need a little bit more support, we are the largest house of support groups led by psychologists, probably in the world, I would say, that are all led by psychologists and not community members. And so community members join, but they have a therapist leading that support group, which makes it a very interesting sort of therapeutic environment rather than just a supportive environment, because you have the containment of a very senior level psychologist there. So those are all free of charge, and we have about 17 of them. And, you know, parenting and single parents and racism and grief and infertility, job loss, like name it, we probably have a support group for it. And if we don't have a support group for it, if you suggest it, we probably will start one soon. So all of our clinicians are very much committed to that. So I just want to mention that at the front so we can keep that off. We don't have to mention it at the end of it. And this is our team. We are all licensed by the CDA or the DHA. So let's just get right into it. So I want to talk about stress today. I want to talk about why are we talking about this. I will talk about the signs and symptoms of stress and burnout. And then I will talk about the sources of stress, just so you might be able to self-identify that maybe this is what's going on. And then how do you master stress? Because there are, if you keep managing stress, you will keep managing stress. And if you master it, that means it's in control now. But management, quite, you know, it's like micromanaging something. You're constantly having to think about it. But these are big shifts that you're going to have to make in your life when it comes to habit change and the way your systems need to change. For example, if you have a company that you run or a house that you run, you constantly tell the person, don't put this here, don't put this here, don't put this here, don't put this here, don't put this here. You could manage that situation that way, but you're using a lot of your energy to manage that situation. However, if you then come up with a system where that person is reminded to not put that there, maybe you put a post-it there, maybe you send them a daily reminder that is on auto, you know, sent, where every morning they get a reminder of what they are, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. That means all of a sudden you have a system and the system works for you rather than you having to work for that system. And that's what mastering stress is. You've got to create some systems that need to work for you so you're not constantly having to work and burning up energy that you could be using for some other things that you could be doing. All right. So that's what we are talking about when it comes to our talk today. So let's talk about why is it that we're talking about stress? I mean, not like I have to mention it, but I will still mention it. And I'm going to skip this slide, actually. Actually, no, I'm going to go back to this. So let's go back to this. Let's do a little bit of a true or false. So give me a hand raise if you think some stress is good for you. I already gave you guys the answers, but give me a hand raise if you think it's good for you. Right. So I'm getting a lot of hand raises. Some people think stress is good. If it wasn't for stress, then we wouldn't be really activated. And that actually is true. Now, what happens is that when we go in, we are activated, we're excited. That's the same stress response. It's the activation response, right, in our body. However, constant and chronic activation can result in chronic cortisol release in your body. That chronic cortisol release in your body actually results in inflammation. The inflammation sends the signals to the brain that releases cytokines that lodge up into your hypothalamus, and they result in depressive mood. Now, I'm going to talk about why this is important, because if you love what you do, there will be periods of high activation. There's a launch coming up. There's a, project that you're working on. Maybe you just love being part of a firm that you feel very excited about. And most people are like, oh, well, I just don't feel that same way anymore. And I had so much enthusiasm and I had so much love for my job, and now I just don't have it. So it's not serving my life purpose. Well, hold on a second. It actually could be that you're not doing the basics right, where you're burning up a lot of your cortisol and adrenaline, and all of these cytokines are being released in your body, which is resulting in you feeling disengaged and stressed and burnt out, and results in depression actually. And so while stress is good for you, the window is very short. You can't be in a chronic state of stress. I'll come back to that. Stress comes from events and circumstances. Raise your hand if you think it's true. Okay, well, people are saying, yeah, it's true. Actually, it's false. Stress does not come from events or situations. Two people can experience the same event. It is how we perceive that event and how we internalize the event, the story we tell ourselves about the event, that actually will result in you feeling stressed about that event. So the narrative and the story of that event and our personality, which might be type A or something, actually releases the cortisol. It actually, if I say this is a threat to me right now, then actually I will release stress hormones. But if I say, you know what, this is just a challenge, and I'm being challenged right now, and the universe is trying to teach me how to deal with difficult people, because this is something I've avoided my whole life. And now there's a conflict in my workplace, or there's a conflict in my life, and now it's time for me to learn the skills. Those levels of stress are going to be a whole lot lower than people who are like, oh my God, this person is so rude. I can't believe this is happening. They're always so bullying and. Now, when you do that, you're going to release a whole lot more stress. So stress does not come from events and circumstances. It comes from our perception and the story we tell about those events. Stress is the same for everyone. Raise your hand if you think it's true. Good. Nobody thinks it's true because it's false. Stress is not the same for everyone. Like I said, it depends on your ability to handle stress, your level of skill, your level of will, your level of spirituality, your level of meaning making. All of these things are actually going to impact whether or not you take stress in that situation. Number 4, I cannot perform my best unless I am stressed. So raise your hand if you think it's true. A few people. Okay, so now again, stress comes on a spectrum, right? We want to have moderate levels of adrenaline pumping through us in order for us to feel that kind of stress. But there's a very fine line between being challenged and being stimulated and then chronic stress. So we don't want to actually be stressed all the time. There should be passion, there should be activation, there should be engagement, and that all comes from cortisol and adrenaline and stress hormones. However, they need to come in short windows, and you need to know the difference between stimulation and then waiting till the very last minute, and then all of a sudden you are procrastinating, and then boom, you get hit with all this stuff and you have to do it. That is not sustainable, and you are causing a lot of damage to your body if you constantly are doing that. You're constantly doing that. And so number 5, the best way to deal with stress is to exercise, breathe, and relax. Raise your hand if you think it's true. Well, okay, there's a lot more people that think that. Well, that's actually false. Now, I'm a big believer of the bottom-up approach, and I will be telling you about exercise, breathing, and relaxing. But you can exercise, breathe, and relax all you want. But if your narrative is not conducive, if the story you tell yourself, and if your life is super hectic and you don't have time management skills, and if you have a whole lot of boundary issues and you don't know how to say no, and you don't have assertiveness skills, and you have children and you don't know how to parent them, and you don't have parenting skills, you can breathe all you want, you're still going to be stressed. So it's not enough. While it is absolutely essential and non-negotiable that you must do that, it is not the best way or the only way, because you need to have a whole system in place. And that's the word I'm going to constantly be using with you guys today, is what is your system? What is your system, guys? Where's the system at? What system are you putting in place that actually is going to help you master that stress in your life? Now, I should say, for those of you who don't know me, that yes, I'm the managing director and founder of the LightHouse Arabia. So I have a team that I'm managing there. I have 4 children and 4 elderly individuals that are in my home, my in-laws and my parents, and my children are doing remote learning. I take my exercise and my schedule and my content creation and my team and my children all very, very seriously. And I'm studying at the Jung Institute in Zurich, for which I have to make a lot of time to study. So I have a lot on my plate. So I understand stress. Like, this is like, I know how to do stress. But I think if it wasn't for systems and supports, that it would be probably a disaster. And I think there were times in my life that I have burnt out. And I will talk about that because I think it's important, how I recovered from that and what I needed to do. So every time I burnt out, I was like, okay, well, that wasn't it. And every time I burnt out, it was like, okay, that's not it. So systems do need to be in place. The facts are that stress is classified as the health epidemic of the 21st century. It is 90% of our diseases and illnesses are based off of stress and not genetic. So we used to think that, oh, my mom has diabetes, so I'll have it, or my dad has depression and I will have it. We actually know from epigenetics now that you actually can turn on your genes or turn off your genes based off of your lifestyle. And if your lifestyle is not it's called basically the stress diathesis model. Basically, imagine that this thing is the disease that your family has: heart disease and liver disease and mental health and physical health issues. Okay, this is the disease. The stress has to come and push on that gene, and it pushes enough inflammation, and then the disease door opens. So you actually can control and manage a lot through your lifestyle and what you eat and how you live and how you think. And that's going to be very, very important. So the difference between stress and burnout, I know I made a video about this, but a really quick rundown. Stress is when you're overly engaged, you're reactive, you're overactive. There's a sense of urgency, hyperactivity. Oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do that. Oh my God. And so you might actually have heart racing. You're still in that fight or flight mode. Okay. So that fight or flight mode is stress. Burnout is when you've used it all up. There ain't no fight, there ain't no flight, there ain't no freeze, there's nothing happening at that point. You're literally just disengaged, blunted, distant. There's a sense of hopelessness. Your motivation is lost. Somebody could come and tell you, you know what, you're going to lose your job. And you're like, yeah, that was going to happen. There's no activation in you, and it leads to feelings of depression. Like I said, the chronic cortisol goes in, causes inflammation in the body. Inflammation sends a signal to the brain, releases the cytokines, which is a bunch of different hormones, which get lodged in the brain, and then it causes depressed mood. Okay, this is not major depression. This is a event-related depression. And if you manage that bit, you can usually come out of it. So there are different kinds of depression, but it's still depression nevertheless, and it still needs to be taken seriously. And it can be very, very emotionally draining and tolling and have a lot of impact on the rest of your life as well. So let's talk a little bit about what happens in the brain when you are in a stress response, because I'm going to be coming up on this one, okay? So there's a researcher, neuroscientist who called Martin Seligman, no, not Martin Seligman. Oh my God, I don't have my notes in front of me, so this is all going off. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Daniel Siegel. Oh, and so he basically made a brain hand model. Okay, I want you to imagine that this is the brain stem and this is the brain. The brain is here and this is the frontal lobe. So here, imagine it's a side part of the brain, and this is the amygdala. It's a small little almond type shaped thing in your brain, which is responsible for our fight or flight response. This small little thing that here we share with all other animals and mammals on the planet, okay? All mammals have this and we actually share that with everybody. And they all have that fight or flight response. However, we have this beautiful thing called the frontal cortex, which is our high brain, which differentiates us from other animals. And so you have the higher cortex, and when this brain is on, you're calm, you're relaxed, you're thinking clearly, the executive functioning sits here. Your ability to plan, your ability to think through consequences, your ability to organize yourself, your ability to regulate yourself all sits in the frontal lobe. This is the high brain that regulates the low brain, okay? The zebra is not thinking, should I run from the tiger? No, he's actually, oh God, tiger, run, okay? But the thing about the zebra is that the second he runs and runs and runs, the lion is no longer there, the zebra frontal lobe comes back on and he's no longer reactive. However, us human beings, we can actually keep that frontal lobe flipped up. So when you actually are in that fight, flight, or freeze response, literally you have flipped your lid and your frontal lobe, there's all kinds of emotional reactivity happening at that point. And this actually happened. So for example, yes, I had this to do, and then I had that to do, and then I had to go there and I had to do that. And oh, sorry, are we still here? Yeah, good. And so what happened was my husband actually said, hey, you know, what do you want to order for dinner? He said something, I don't remember what. And I was like, I don't know what you mean. And he was like, whoa, you know, so I'm reactive. And it was like, I was in my headspace at that point, but I was in really that adrenaline, rushing, fighting, flighting type of state. So this was what was happening. And that time you're sort of focused on one particular thing, and anything that gets in the way of that, you might actually explode. So it can actually happen where you're a lot more reactive, but that might just be because your adrenaline is running, right? You're planning a birthday party and everybody's coming over, and then, you know, only people that are in your pod during COVID, but you know what I mean? And that actually can, and then your kid might come and say, Mama, what should I put on the table? Just put whatever you want, right? You can actually see yourself doing that because your frontal cortex is disabled and you are not in a calm and centered place. The adrenaline is actually getting you moving and excited, but excitement actually can result in us reacting sometimes if we don't keep ourselves grounded. And I think it's okay. It's okay to say that. It's okay to be in that state. You just can't be in that state for very long, because what it does to the body is actually quite bad, actually. And so imagine that this is the brain right here in the center of the screen, and from the cortisol and the adrenaline gets all sorts of stuff released, and the increased heart rate, the lungs dilate, the liver says, all right, give me the sugar so I can send it to the limb so this woman can run and fight and flight and do whatever she needs to do and get this, you know, this excitement that happens. And I might be running on a treadmill and that might be happening in my body. The blood pressure moves and everything is moving. However, all your long-term projects shut down. your digestive system is not working. I don't know if any of you have gone to the gym and you're really having a hard, high intensity workout, and you don't go to the bathroom. As soon as you're done with that, you might actually have to go to the bathroom. It's because everything shuts down. You don't need to be digesting your food when you're about to become someone's food. And this system is very, very old, right? So if the lion is chasing you, you do not need to be digesting your food. So evolutionarily speaking, it shuts down all systems so it can take all that energy and keep you alive and survive. That's great when you're short term, but imagine you're not having tissue repair and your reproductive system shuts down, your sex drive shuts down, your digestive system shuts down, your immune system shuts down, your growth hormone shuts down. So it can send all the energy up to your limbs. That's okay for 30 minutes or a day or 2 or 3, but if you do it in a sustained way, you are going to develop lots of different things like back pain, chest pain, blood pressure, diabetes, heart palpitations, obesity, because of insulin issues, hair loss, absenteeism where you're just zoned out, sleep problems, upset stomach because your digestive system is not, you're still eating, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do because you're in that inflamed chronic stress place. And in mindfulschools.org, they actually said that most of us nowadays are living in a chronic state of mild stress. Chronic state of mild stress. So it doesn't take, so we're basically like when the lid is on, this is someone who is not in a state of chronic stress. We're all actually a bit like that. So we're all actually just very easy to get activated or very anxious or can get depressed a lot quicker because we are in that mild state, because we are not consciously and actively living a life that will help buffer against that stress. So imagine now you have these kinds of issues that are a result of chronic stress, arthritis, heart disease. Something interesting that most people don't know about is that with heart disease, imagine that there's a pipe, okay? This is a pipe, and this pipe is your heart vessel. When you are in that chronic state of anxiety or stress, the blood is pumping through and it's pumping through and it's pumping through this pipe in your blood vessels in your heart, okay? Your arteries around your heart. Now, you can actually look just like me. I could be fit, I could be healthy. However, I could have heart disease. Why? Because of chronic stress. Because what happens when you're pumping this kind of adrenaline through your body in a chronic way, and the body isn't repairing and it's not doing what it needs to do, it actually will start to wear and tear off the pipes of your blood artery, your heart arteries, right? And so then when you eat a burger, all that fat gets lodged in to those pipes. And that's what causes the blocked arteries. Because sometimes you see someone who is so fit and they had a heart attack. How did this fit person have a heart attack? It's probably guaranteed that they were a type A personality and they took a lot of pressure into their heart. And that pressure actually led to heart disease. And that actually can result in lots of other issues, obviously. These are some of the symptoms. So if you're like, no, lady, I ain't stressed. Well, if you have any of these different types of symptoms, constant restlessness, you have sleep problems, you have hair loss, you have memory problems, lack of focus, you make really bad decisions and then you're like, oh shoot, man, why did I say that? If you're irritable, you're sad, you're moody, you're depressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, burned out, you feel a sense of loneliness, like no one sees you. If you're running around, working really long hours, overeating like junk food, sugary foods, carby foods, because when your body is stressed, it needs quick fix. That's why when we're stressed, we go for that chocolate cake or we go for the comfort food, which is pasta, which is actually releasing the sugar into our body because our body uses up a lot more sugar when we are stressed. So that comfort food starts to become like every day, and that's not okay. Angry outbursts, like I said, because you're in fight or flight, any little thing can be like, sure, you attack. Addictive behaviors, which are like self-numbing, you're like now shopping online every day, or you're going to the mall every day, or you're smoking shisha every day or smoking too much or drinking too much. These are all indicators to me that something's off here. This is not sustainable, and you will cause long-term damage to your body. And if you're telling me that, well, it ain't happened yet, like it ain't gonna happen now, well, I will tell you that I am a recovering type A, and I'm still in recovery. Like every day is a battle, and my energy and my intensity and all of these things that really have gotten me, where I am in life actually are now getting in my way. And that actually is leading to burnout. And if you don't know about type A personalities, these guys don't have patience. They actually are very, very, it's almost like joyless ambition. They're just charged all the time, highly competitive, don't like to wait in lines. Everybody's moving too slow. Why isn't everybody moving faster? This is a type A personality. And it is the number one, guys, from Robert Sapolsky of Stanford University, who has said this, that type A personality is the number one indicator of heart disease. Okay, now I'll say it again. Type A personality is the number one indicator of heart disease. You could be obese, you could be smoking, you could be eating pasta every day, you could not be exercising, and your chances of heart disease are still lower than the person who has a type A personality, because they're just causing havoc within their body, while the pasta eating person might just be like, oh, you know what, life is good, I'm fine. And so their heart is not taking as much of a toll. Heart disease, heart attacks, clogged arteries, all of that stuff, number one indicator of that is type A personality. And so mindset about stress is going to be very, very important. It is not stress, guys. It is not the work that is causing you the stress. It is how you perceive that work. And that's what we're going to talk about. You need to shift some of that for your own sake. You're addicted to stress could be another reason why you are stressed. There are some people who are like adrenaline junkies. They almost can't sit still. And now, thanks to our phones and our social media and we actually are like constantly on. And then we're wondering why we're depressed. We're wondering why we're anxious. We're wondering why we're not sleeping properly. We're literally can't sit still. If I tell you, put your phone away and just look out the window, most people will be like itching in their seats and like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to? We're like addicted to productivity or distraction or stress. Okay. Perfectionism also very much linked to type A personality, but perfectionism is going to cause havoc within your systems, and it will lead you to stress. That checking of the email 400 times so you get every comma in its place and not worth it, guys. You're putting too much pressure on yourself and you will burn out. And if you are a perfectionist, I do have videos on this stuff, and I do have like little tiles that you can like put on your Post-it and look at every morning, because that's something I struggle with as well. And I would say that it was a daily practice of doing something that wasn't perfect and just going with it and being good enough. I don't have to be the best. I'm going to be good enough so I can still love my children at the end of the day and not use up all my energy on that email or that presentation. And you will probably see lots of mistakes in this presentation also, because I was editing it till the very last minute, because I added some new things to it. But that's me being imperfect. Lack of self-awareness. If you don't know what your values are, you don't know what's causing the stress, of course, you're going to be a lot more stressed. Lack of control. Control gives us a sense of agency. A just sense of agency feels like we are able to handle whatever is being thrown our way. If we feel powerless in the face of all of it, we actually are going to feel a lot more stress. And then a lack of skills. Like I told you, breathing, sleeping, all of that is great. But when you wake up and you are stressed because you don't have assertiveness skills, you don't have time management skills, you don't have, mastering stress skills, you don't have, self-regulation skills or emotional regulation skills. These are all skills, guys. We're not born with this stuff. We have to teach ourselves this, and no one teaches you this stuff in school. And that's why they just give you all the academic stuff, and then they're like throw you off into the jungle, which is called the world, and then you have to do that learning. And then we're so hard on ourselves. Like, why is it so hard for me? It's hard for you because no one taught you. How's that? Right? So lack of skills. Where do I need to skill up? This is not about me being a bad parent. This is not about me being a bad employee. Maybe I just don't know how to manage my time. Once you manage the time, voila, everything is good. So it really is learning. This is where self-awareness and skill building come hand in hand. Other sources, you could have physical health difficulties and relationship difficulties, just daily life hassles, traffic, and going to the grocery store and forgetting your mask, and all of these things can just chip, adrenaline, cortisol, right? This is what's happening in your body. Major life events. Now I put positive or negative, like you could just have been newly married, stressful event. This is where it, you know, the body and the systems are like, you're reacting to this person and this, you know, well, why are you in this space of mine? And why are you doing things this way? A new baby, very stressful event, good event, but a very, very stressful event for the system and for relationships and things, and, you know, generally speaking. And then negative, obviously a death in the family, a divorce, a breakup, any of these things can cause stress. And then you have the techno brain, which I will keep talking about, that most of us are burning out. You know, I will say, I've shared this with some people before, but in mindfulschools.org, one of the lectures I listened to actually said that in one day of the newspaper, we consume more information than a person did in their whole lifetime in the 17th century. Whole lifetime, you're thinking, oh, well, it wasn't that long. Okay, fine, 35 years. 35 years, one day reading the newspaper. Now, this research did not look at how much content we are consuming through social media, WhatsApp, email, magazines, Netflix, billboards. No, and so there's too much load on our brain, and our brain hasn't evolved that much since the 17th century. Yeah, okay, fine, we're here and our life expectancy is longer, but we actually are chronically ill beyond a certain age, right? We are living longer, but we are absolutely not healthy. Most of us, actually, there's some sort of major disease that's going on with us beyond a certain age. We have heart disease, we have blood pressure, we have liver, we have insulin issues, we have diabetes, all of these lifestyle diseases that are caused by stress. So the way we use our technology is going to be very, very important. And then this is what we do, which is basically us numbing ourselves. And I would say that these are unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. However, they work. You know, sleeping too much, procrastinating, filling up every day to avoid thinking about negative things, you know, lashing out, angry. When you lash out, it feels good. Smoking, overeating, undereating, all of this stuff works. It actually works. However, it is not sustainable, because it works in the sense that we get that chill feeling, but then that mastering stress thing is not happening, and that stress is still there. And then tomorrow we're at it again. So if you're engaged in any of this stuff, you know that this is not sustainable for your mental or your physical health. All right, let's get into mastering stress now, which I'm going to move through quickly because I've actually shared a lot with you guys. So I'm going to be highlighting some things. Mastering stress. The first thing I'm going to say, and if you guys are not doing these things, you don't have to listen to anything else I say. Because if your physical body is stressed, there ain't nothing you can do about your mental body, because you won't have the energy to learn anything else. If you are not sleeping 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you basically are operating from, you know, 50% capacity of learning new things or regulating yourself. You know, if you look down at this chart of the brain, this was actually an fMRI, but we actually made it into a cute little picture, which is the amygdala. If you do not sleep 7 to 8 hours, you actually of quality sleep, by the way. And if you do not have blue light screen protectors on your phone, then you can be sure you're not getting quality sleep. Your amygdala is 60% more activated. What does that mean? This 60% all day long, with a stress hormone being released in your body. So you will not be able to manage your stress, manage your relationship, do anything that might be helpful when you actually are not getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep, of quality sleep. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch my webinar on sleep, because there is a difference. And if you are waking up with an alarm clock and lots of snooze buttons, you are not getting quality sleep, guys. All right, so I'm not going to say any more about sleep because I can get lost in that space. Exercise 3 to 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours, 3 to 4 times 30 minutes of 75% maximum heart rate. It actually is the same effects as anxiety, basically a chill pill, where you can actually get that when you do rigorous exercise of 75% of your maximum heart rate. Okay, what is that maximum heart rate? If you're jogging and you're able to talk to the person, but you're still huffing and puffing like that, that is basically 75% of your maximum heart rate. I would recommend getting a Fitbit. I don't get paid to say that, but I just think it's a good thing. What you can't measure, you can't manage. So start measuring your sleep, start measuring your steps, start measuring how good that quality sleep is. The next thing is, if you're not eating healthy foods and if you're not taking probiotics or foods that actually help with your gut bacteria, then you're probably also operating at this, because all of these antibacterials that we're using that are just so helpful, and this hand sanitizer and that hand sanitizer, avoid that if you can, because it is killing off the good bacteria in your body. So wash your hands with soap, that's great, and use the antibacterial, obviously, if you think that, you know, you're in a public place, but don't just use it for using sake, because you're killing off the good bacteria in your body, and that good bacteria is linked to your brain. And so you see this picture of this guy, there's a brain and there's a nerve. And that vagus nerve is basically a two-way highway that goes like this, is literally the essence of your mind-body connection. It is the essence of the placebo effect. If I give you a little tic tac and I say this is an the anti-anxiety medication, why is that? Because the power of the brain to convince the body is there, and the vagus nerve is there communicating that. And that vagus nerve, it comes from the Latin word called wandering, vagus meaning wanderer. So it wanders all over your body, to your lungs, to your liver, to your stomach, to your kidneys, to your heart. And that's why when the brain is good, it's all good. When the body is good, the brain is good. And so they do play with each other because they're communicating with each other. But when one of these systems are off, guess what? It all goes off. So dehydration can actually mimic depression. It can mimic, you know, disengagement. And maybe I don't love my job, but, you know, actually, maybe you just need to hydrate also. You know, I'm not trying to minimize that there could be, and you really do have to do a proper assessment. But if you're just listening to your body and not necessarily doing the proper assessment, you actually could be listening to the wrong signal when your body hasn't slept, it's not getting hydrated, it's not eating properly, and you would never, ever, ever do that to a child. You would never do to a child what you do to yourself. You would never make it stay up till 1 a.m. and finish that thing. You would say, honey, go to bed and then wake up tomorrow morning when your brain is fresh. Right? You would say that to a child, but you don't do it yourself. No, I got to finish. And your brain is operating at like 20% beyond, you know, 10 p.m. And so it's taking you longer to do things because you're not rested. And that's a fact that sleep actually, it took them twice as long to finish something than when they were actually rested when they hadn't slept. So that's one thing I would say. And limit caffeine, sugar, especially when you're stressed. When you're drinking a lot of caffeine, you're first of all draining your body of any magnesium, and that is actually needed to relax. But also you are creating that adrenaline feeling in your body. And that could be, masking how depleted your body actually is of adrenaline, which leads to burnout. And then increasing the vagal tone, meditation, chanting, humming, cold exposure, socializing, laughing. The vagus nerve starts at the base of your brain. So anything like, these are humming. And if you look at any major religion, you have Hinduism that says Om, and it's actually vibrating against the vagus nerve. When you have Christianity, Islam, Amen, this is the same thing, Amin. These are all chanting and humming that actually is stimulating that vagus nerve. And that vagus nerve actually is the same battery that actually brings this back on. So the stronger your vagus nerve is, you're faster to bring on the rest and digest. So you want to take care of your vagal tone, just like you take care of your biceps and your abs. You want to be like, all right, what did I do for my vagal tone today? Because you'll be able to flip that lid a whole lot faster. Well, bring that lid back on a whole lot faster if your muscle in that vagal tone is stronger. And these are some things you can do which will bring you into a faster Zen state than if you have exhausted vagal tone, which many people do these days, guys. A lot of people do. Next thing is having a morning moment. You have to adopt a morning routine so you ease into the day. Many of us are rolling over, looking at our phone, sending out emails, looking at WhatsApp, looking around, and woo, your body's cortisol is highest in the morning, and then you just charged it up even more. You can't start the day off like this. Trust me, I get it. It's super hard. You want to look at your phone, you want to get things done, but just ease into that. So the first 10 minutes, the first 15 minutes, don't look at your phone. Whatever was there will still be there. And you need to tell yourself that. And this is a habit because our phones are highly addictive. And I'm telling you that it's not going to be easy. But you want to spend some time visualizing the day. What kind of person do I want to be today? I want to be calm. I want to be optimistic. I want to be confident. I want to be kind. And you visualize it. You play the day out. I'm going to this meeting, I'm smiling. I'm going to that meeting, I'm smiling. And this is what's happening, literally 3 to 5 minutes. Feel the feeling. You're basically priming your body to say, this is the feeling I want to have. So this is not just a visual exercise. It's a visceral exercise. Feel the feeling of what it feels like to be confident, and feel it right down into your toes, and what it feels like to be excited, and what it feels like to be energized. All of a sudden, you have these happy chemicals that are being released in your body the first thing in the morning. That is the intention setting. And we know from research that the intention is the seed, and that feeds all day long. You roll over, you look at your phone, oh my God, this person is doing this, and I can't believe my life is like this, and that person is already traveling. And no, that's going to be the intention of your day. Your day is going to be like that. So this is what I mean by a system. The starting of the day is absolutely critical. And so how will you start your day will be very, very important. Then what will you do in the day? Guys, I have done, and not to say like I have it all together, but like when it comes to time management, I really do have it together. When it comes to, these urgent, non-urgent, schedule, delegate, delete, all of these things is going to be very, very important. If you know how to manage your time, you know how to manage your stress, period. I learned one exercise, which was time boxing, and I was 17 years old when I learned it. I'm no longer 17 years old, but I'm still using it. Decades have gone by, and I have lived by the time box routine. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, time box routine, it actually is basically, I literally created it in a Word document where it says Sunday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And each 30-minute is actually there. So this Google Calendar has it, but I like to scribble on my, when I'm, especially in times of stress, I really like to manipulate things on and I obsess about my calendar, right? Because that is my life. When will I spend time with my children? How will I what time will I call my mother? What time? The to-do list doesn't exist. I don't have a to-do list. If you have a to-do list, I promise you, you will always have a to-do list, and it will never feel like you're getting anything done list because you'll scratch off one thing, because the research shows that to-do lists don't work. To-do lists don't work because we will constantly be going towards the least time consuming and fastest dopamine releasing activity, which is like, oh, let me just answer emails. It is not urgent to answer that email, but that long project that I had to do that has like 9 different moving parts, I'm probably never going to get that done. And so dropping things into time slots and saying from this time to this time, it's blocked off, I'm reading. This time to this time, I'm doing email. This time to this time, I'm doing social media. And then your life starts to say, okay, where do I have time? I promise you, you have enough time. You're just not managing it right. You have enough time. And so when people tell me, oh, I don't have time to exercise, sorry, I don't believe you. You have time. You have time to move. Everybody has time to move at some point. So get a Fitbit and start moving around your room, because I did that. I do that and I'll walk around in circles, but outsource the very, very time consuming task if you can. If you can't, then you need to box it into a time in a low period, which is just time consuming stuff, but it actually could be, done when you don't need a lot of mental energy. Remember to ask yourself, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? And the higher up you go, the harder it gets, because I'm now choosing between something I love and something I love. This opportunity and this opportunity, I have to say no to one. And that is where it becomes really, really hard. And when you look at your time box and you say, I got to pick one because I don't have time to do both, then you start to, so the time box, the calendar in front of you actually will tell you, do you have time for this? Because I will say, well, I could do it, but I won't be able to see my children that day. Okay, do I want to make that trade-off? And do I want to be real about that? And there are times where I've actually done it where I didn't see my kids maybe that day because that was an opportunity I didn't want to say no to. So I didn't have dinner with them. I mean, I did obviously see them. They live in my house, but you know what I mean? I didn't see them for dinner that day because I was doing something else. But then I know that I have to see them earlier. So now I'm going to do lunch with them. And so all of a sudden you're able to move things around and it doesn't stress you out. More stressful times, for example, these 2 weeks in October are usually very stressful for me because it's World Mental Health Day on October 10th. And so we are all, moving parts, but time box it. I have time. Don't book these calls, anything that can be delayed beyond that, et cetera, et cetera. And also ask yourself, what gets in the way of you asking for help? Is it financial? Okay, I understand. But is it just, well, I just do it better. I just do it faster. Yeah, well, you need to train up those people because that's not a working system. It's not a system that's going to work. So I know that I can set the table a whole lot faster than my daughter, but if I set the table, I teach her how to do it, and then I take a picture of it and I stick the paper on the dining room door and say, make the table look like that. All of a sudden I have a system and I have now freed up setting up the table. It's all about systems. And it's an initial investment of time, which then pays back a whole lot. And that's what most people don't want to do. They don't want to make that initial investment of setting up a system. So they haven't identified the problem properly and they just keep shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting. And that's where they run out of steam. Invest in your social support. So you know that Robert Sapolsky guy that I mentioned to you guys, he basically says that social support is the #1 mitigator of stress. And right now, most of us don't feel very socially supported because we are surrounded by strangers, or when we go out with the people that we love, there's usually a phone in between us and there's not that deep connection or that sense of safety or the sense of being seen by each other. So create a tribe. If you're in the UAE, if you're living somewhere else and you don't have your friends around, you know what? Create your people. It doesn't have to be your family. It can be your people. And then invest in those people as you would with any other important relationship. We call these CEOs and we call these clients and we call these people. No, your people need to be called also, and investing in that relationship, because that will actually mitigate your stress, and it is the strongest indicator of happiness. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch my YouTube video on secrets of a healthy mind. I won't go too much into this, but use technology consciously when you are with your tribe. Cheryl Turkle for MIT basically has done a lot of research between the effects of the phone in between me and you when we're having a conversation. And if there's a phone in between me and you, that conversation will not go to the depth that it can. And if there's a phone upside down in between me and you, the effect is the same. So they've done the research, it's pretty good research, and our conversation will not have the intimacy or the depth. And then why does that happen? When people say, I will carry your burdens with you, literally, physically speaking, physiologically speaking, neurologically speaking, that's what happens. When someone calls me, I had a really bad phone call, hang up the phone, call my husband. Oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. Oh my God, like, and he says something, don't worry about it. You know, he'll say nice things to me and whatever. And maybe we'll figure it out. We'll problem solve. And immediately that thing was divided by 2. Then I call my friend. Hey, do you have time to hear a few things? I need to vent. Oh yeah, sure. This happened, this happened, this happened. Now it's divided by 3. And immediately my stress is lower. And that's why loneliness kills people. Your mortality rates are going to be a whole lot higher if you are going to be lonely. So isolation and loneliness can lead to a whole lot more stress on the body because you're literally not dividing it with anyone. This is why support groups are so important, because you share the burden. They share yours, you share theirs. Some days you're heavy, some days they're heavy, and that's what happens. So make an effort to be with your friends, or to make friends, even if you're in that location just for a little while. I know this is something that people say in Dubai, well, I'm just here for a year, I don't need to build. No, you need to build a tribe wherever you go, and then you can have like a global tribe. Next, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this? Because remember when I told you is the stress is caused by life events? Actually, it's not. It's the story about the event. And we are meaning-making human beings. Our brain is wired for storytelling, and our brain is wired to detect threat. Guess what story we're going to tell? We're going to make a story about the bad guy. Oh, he's so bad and he's so good. Our brain likes to think in black and white. It organizes us. It makes us feel safe. The brain doesn't remember that there are multiple realities, especially when something bad happens. So we immediately go from bad to good, and he's the bad guy, I'm the good guy, and that's it. And that's how we think, because it makes us feel like we got things under control. And when it's black and white, we feel like we're under control, but it's usually negative, right? And so the brain doesn't remember that there are multiple perceptions to a reality. One way to start triggering that reminder is to preface your thoughts by saying, the story I'm telling myself right now is that you prefer to spend time with your friends rather than with me. The story I'm telling myself is that I can't wake up at 5 a.m. because I'm not a morning person. The minute I tell myself that this is a story I'm telling myself, then I can change the story. The story is that I actually don't want to, or maybe the reality is that I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. And so all of a sudden you're engaging with it from the external and saying, what's the story here? What story am I telling myself about me? And by the way, guys, we get told stories about ourselves. Oh, she doesn't understand math, and oh, she's so hyperactive, and man, she's really onto something. Like, we hear these stories about ourselves. They're not reality. They're just perception. You decide what is reality and what you want to make your reality. And all these thoughts are just thoughts. You need to get onto the balcony and say, which thought do I want to feed? Because anything that you give attention to, you will give energy to. Energy flows where attention goes. And if I have this negative thought, oh my God, I can't believe my husband is so selfish and he didn't call me. Okay, well, the story I'm telling myself is that my husband is so selfish. Okay, well, what other story could there be? It could be that he's stuck in traffic. It could be that his phone ran out of battery. It can be so many other things. All of a sudden, you say, well, I'm going to choose that story because there's less release of cortisol in my body. So I'm going to say the story I'm telling myself that he was really on an important call, and that's why he couldn't call me. And all of a sudden, the stress is less. Choose your words carefully. The words change your frequency. You change your language and you change your frequency. The power of I am is a serious, serious power, guys. If you say I am sad, I am angry, I am tired, all of a sudden you are now creating a reality. And, you know, I don't know who it was, Oprah or somebody that said anything that follows I am is actually going to come looking for you. So if you say I am exhausted rather than I had a productive day, we said the same thing. You and I said the same thing, but productive, like I got a lot of stuff done today. I'm exhausted. No, switch it. Switch it to where it's a positive statement about something you did that was anchored in your values. Change your language to I have to I get to. This is a life-changing sentence, guys. It can really shift you into a state of gratitude. Gratitude is the inflammation, basically an anti-inflammatory state of being, which is I get to go. I get to cook for my children. I get to homeschool my children. There are people in this world that don't. Immediately when you say I get to, you shift into a place of, well, who doesn't get to? And there are many, many people who don't. So immediately you feel grateful that, well, yeah, I do get to, right? I have to versus I'm choosing to, choice, control, agency. I don't have to go anywhere. No one's dragging you by your, a handcuffed, police patrol car to take you somewhere. You choose this. I choose to go see my in-laws. No one's dragging you there. And so when you make it your choice, immediately you open up your heart and immediately the energy shifts inside of you. I can't do public speaking. I can't do public speaking yet. When you put in yet, woo, the possibilities open up and all of a sudden there's nothing you can't do. Guys, I know we're right up on time, but I'm going to keep going. For those of you who do have to log off, I am going to save this on our YouTube channel, but I'm going to keep going. There's only a couple more things. So create moments of stillness to a mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Adopt a reflective practice if you don't have one. This could be dhikr for people that are Muslim. It could be meditation. It could be yoga. It could be anything where you are stilling yourself. Breath work. That's the new thing these days. Breath work is really stilling, where you're just focused on one thing. Okay. And it's a reflective practice and you're, sort of connected to your soul. You're connected to your spirit. One way to do that is through journaling. Turn off technologies for certain periods of time, literally turn the phone off. And everybody gets so tense when I say that. Okay. It's okay, guys. There was a time when we all lived without one. It's okay if you turn it off for 10, 15 minutes and just be. And if you can't do it, then you need to figure out why, because that's a problem. Yeah. Build in times to do nothing. Doing nothing. Oh, people are like, oh, how do you do nothing? Well, that's when your brain is doing nothing. So you could just sit on the sofa and drink a cup of tea and just stare at your carpet or look out the window or look at the ceiling. That's it. Do nothing. You could go to the beach and just watch the waves. That's doing nothing. I'm not asking you to meditate. I'm not asking you to engage in internal dialogue. I'm literally asking your, like daydreaming, for those of you who don't know daydreaming, like it's basically looking out the window and just letting your mind wander. It rests the brain. It turns on the default neural network, which is really linked to a sense of selfhood and a connection to that self. And so when you create that stillness, you literally let the system rest. We're literally not letting the system rest. And then connect to your values and to your character strengths. In my inner journey highlight at the top of the Instagram account, you will see the inner journey button and you go on there. I'm totally not using like IG language here, but you know what I mean. The inner journey button, you click on that and in there's a link to the VIA. It's actually right on the screen here. It's also called viacharacter.org. Take a values inventory because it is a fact, guys, that stress is not bad for you unless it's chronic. And stress is not bad for you if you see it not as bad for you. Fact. So if I am like, oh my God, I have this going on, I have that going on, I have that going on, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting challenged and this is so exciting. And all of a sudden I'm like, I feel purposeful because all these talks that I'm doing are linked to my life calling and my life purpose and my life mission. All of a sudden it's passion. But if I say, oh my God, I have this going on and I have this going on and I'm so busy, I don't have time to do anything and I can't take care of myself, immediately I'm releasing a very different chemical in your body. So when you link something that you do, whatever you do, it's the janitor who says, I make the world a cleaner place. And he links it to something that he feels that is important and his value to serve humanity and serve communities. Immediately, that job starts to have meaning. No matter what you do, make meaning out of that. And that meaning, link it to your personal value. And you will immediately see a shift in the way you feel about it. When you say, oh my God, I'm so my parents and my kids, this is the future of tomorrow. And I get to be part of that. And I'm raising these children and they're going to be socially responsible. And then they will be the light bearers for tomorrow. And immediately it has a very different feeling that, oh my God, I got to do this with my kids and I got to go do that with my kids. What's happening now is too many people are doing a lot, but they're not making meaning of a lot. Taking a picture and posting it is not making meaning. Making meaning is an internal association with your values. It's when you're engaged with purpose. And so take this character values, it will give you your highest, it will give you your lowest and the things you need to work on. And then if you are engaged in the higher ones most of the day, every day, and find a way to link what you're doing to your highest values and strengths, you will have less stress. These are some of the apps that I recommend. There's others on my Instagram button that says meditation. I will also like to add, if you hold grudges and if you have a lot of like anger and you're angry with people all the time because you feel people hurt you all the time, got to work on that because that's causing stress in your body. It's causing inflammation in your body. So sometimes I'm like, I have to go do my forgiveness meditation because I cannot have that person causing inflammation in my body. I literally will have these kinds of conversations with myself. I will also say something like, oh my, this person cut me off on the road this morning, but like, I just spent like 15 minutes trying to get to Zen. And so no, I will not let you ruin my Zen. And that's it. I let that moment go. I bring myself back into this moment because that guy cut me off and left, but then he's still reverberating inside of me. Not today, because today I meditated. And so don't let people take away your Zen and choose that moment. And once you start to do it more, it starts to become more of a choice that no, I will not let this person's weird look at me ruin my moment. I'm going to bring it back to Zen and I'm going to address that later. And breath will really bring you back to Zen. Focus on your breath, count for 10. Coherent breath. Breathe in for 5, out for 5. In for 5. There's also an app called Breathwork, which I can recommend to you guys. If I have not, I will put it on my stories. It's one of my favorite apps. I'm like a little bit obsessed with it right now. So, and there's Brain FM also. So these are some of the things. I'm not gonna make you watch that. These are some of the LightHouse Instagram channels. We are launching Lighthearted Parenting and LightHouse Insight. So Lighthearted Parenting is for parents and LightHouse Insight is for young adults. So if you have teens or you just like information in a very succinct, friendly way, that's what you're going to want to follow. This is for young adults, usually high school, college students, and then the LightHouse Arabia obviously being one of those. So now I can take some questions from you guys. Please, if you can delete the questions that I have not or that I have already addressed, that would be really great. Okay, I'm going to start from the very end. So the question is, so by the way, guys, I'm reading the question, so I'm not just zoning out. How can we know if we are creating a story or if this is a reality? There is no such thing as reality. It is only a story, okay? And so you want to say, obviously you have to check with your sense that if this person is toxic because repeatedly they've engaged in certain behaviors that just are inconsistent with any values, then you don't want to ignore that sign. You're not saying the story I'm telling myself is that he is a jerk. I'm saying you need to look at the objective behaviors of what he is doing, but and inform yourself of, okay, well, I still need to have a boundary conversation with him, right? And so going back to my story of my husband not calling me, poor guy, like he really does call me. So that's not, I mean, I'm just using that as an example because I really get irritated when people are late. And there's my type A coming out. But I feel that, okay, so this person is late. So I would check with, is this person chronically late? Is every single time that they disrespect my time and overvalue theirs? Is this just happened once, or does it happen all the time? Does it happen once a week? I would check the facts. Once you've checked the facts, then I would say, well, the story I'm telling, because sometimes when we say things like, when we label people, he's such a jerk, or he's such a whatever, now you're telling a story, right? The facts are different from labels. When you say he's a narcissist, oh, okay, easy there, Tiger. Unless you have a clinical degree and you've done a deep diagnostic intake, I don't know if you should be labeling anyone a narcissist. But you could say, well, these are the behaviors that are inconsistent and they feel like boundary violations to me. I'm going to have a conversation with him about that. So I would go to my husband and I would say, husband, next time when you're late, can you please call me? And I might actually start off by saying, you know that I get really upset when people are late. And he would say, yeah, I ran into this and I ran into that. Okay, well, next time, if you can have your assistant message me, or you can WhatsApp me, or you can SMS me, it would be really great, because then I don't have to sit there waiting for you. Finish. No drama that needs to be fed into that. Now, I'm not talking about clinical diagnoses of people that are toxic and bullies and, that really have some personality problems. I'm just talking about day-to-day things that we make up stories about that usually have a good guy and a bad guy. And we usually are the good guy and everybody else is the bad guy. Usually is a story associated with that. Okay. Does hearing stress stories of other people increase your own stress levels? I mean, there is such a thing called vicarious trauma. And if you are listening to other people's stressful stories and you don't know how to do that, like you don't know if you can listen to people, or you don't know how to contain people, or you don't know how to regulate yourself, or you don't know how to regulate others, then you should not be listening very much to like a whole lot of stressful stories. We are trained to listen, and we are trained to contain, and we're trained to hold. And we have to have very high levels of self-care in order to be able to do that every single day for, 5-6 hours a day. So it is a skill. And you do need to take care of yourself if that is something that you find yourself doing a lot of. How do you let go of grudges in a practical way? So on my meditation highlight, go to the very end of it, and there's something called the Ho'oponopono meditation. I know it sounds so cool. It sounds like an ice cream, but Ho'oponopono is a meditation which takes you through a visual exercise. I have done all sorts of things, and you can watch my YouTube video on forgiveness, because that might help you, because I think forgiveness has a lot to do with shame. I wasn't good enough. That's why he left me. That's why he didn't. There's an underpinning of shame usually. So if we can resolve the shame and then work on the healing, it is a process, but you make the intention to let it go. And it took me 4 years to forgive somebody. So it's not easy necessarily, but I did a lot of the healing work and the feeling work, and what else is that triggering in me, and why is it hard for me to forgive this person? And it really was linked to the fact that I felt ashamed on one level. She was really rude to me. She was really mean to me. She left me. She ghosted me. But I was like, how dare she, and how could she? And I was okay in that space of anger. However, what I realized once I said, okay, what's underneath the anger? Let's just say we were not going to be angry for a while. And I leaned into what was inside of that. And inside of that was, if I was good, then she wouldn't have left me. Childhood wound, right? Rejection, abandonment. If I was good, then my mom wouldn't have gone on that holiday without me. That's what the child is thinking. And that was the same wound that was being triggered here. You do that work, you heal this, forgiveness becomes a whole lot easier. And then I went into the Ho'oponopono. So you do have to do a little bit of work, because if there's a wound, I promise you it doesn't have to do it today. I promise you that it does not have to do with today. I don't care if the breakup happened. I don't care what they said to you. If that pain came, that pain that is so hard to let go of, it's telling you, sweetheart, you got some work to do that's undone. And now it's bringing it to the surface. So inner work, child work, you know, that childhood work actually becomes very, very critical. Let's see. Is there any test that can look for cortisol levels? Yes, there can. Any supplement to support the same? I'm not sure, but exercise is the one thing that you can do to actually help with that. Walking, rigorous exercise is really good for that kind of, you know, reducing of the inflammation when it comes to that cortisol levels. But yes, you can check for cortisol levels. You can just go get a blood test done through your doctor. If some friend of yours is aware of the boundary and still breaks it, do you have another conversation about it, or just leave the friendship without notice? I think you know the answer to that. I think if it's worth that conversation, then you should have that conversation. But if they repeatedly break that boundary, then you basically can say that this person is probably not someone you want to invest that much time in. I'm not saying you cut off and ghost that person, but I think that you do have to look at your energy. You know, we wake up with this much energy every day. Where am I giving my energy to? To the guy that cut me off on the road, to my maid who broke my cup, to my, you know, this, to this, to this, to this, to that. Okay, well, now I have this much energy to create the life I want and to love my children and to love everybody I want. No. So this person she's not part of my tribe. I will call her, and when she calls me, I'll be very, very cordial, but she's not going to be people I'll be investing my energy in. I'm going to be giving that energy to my tribe, and that tribe deserves it, and they give me something back, and they respect my boundaries, and they care for me, and they check in on me, etc. So that's how you want to think about it. Energy is finite, guys. It's not infinite. Our soul and love is infinite. Energy, not. Time, not. Type A personality is not a formal personality code. This is just, you know, Google personality. Like, this is just one of those highly competitive, can't lose, ambitious, like I said, joyless ambition to the point, go, 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 go. And, you know, the person who is standing in the grocery store line and the person is not moving fast enough and they're rushing, even though they don't have to rush, like they have, you know, but they're driving down Sheikh Zayed Road and they're like, but you still have an hour, dude, chill. But they're just, you know, that is a type A personality. There's no formal diagnostic code or, you know, a test that you can do. You can just check that with yourself and say, yep, that sounds a little bit like me. That's probably the answer. Okay, so when it comes to bosses and managers, I don't want to tell you guys how to have that conversation, because people are saying, well, how do you draw boundaries with bosses and managers? I don't want to tell you that, because I don't want to be responsible for you maybe getting, you know, told. What's the culture like in your company? Is there an HR team that you can speak to? What's the protocol? What are boundaries? But I do think learning assertiveness skills and learning what your boundaries are and learning what you're okay with and learning what your worth is helps all of that come a little bit easier. So with my boss, he might say, hey, listen, I need this by 5 p.m. tonight. And I'd be like, well, I can't get it done by 5 p.m. I'll get it to you by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Is that okay with you? And he might be like, oh, okay. But, you know, I don't know what your work culture is, but I can tell you that these are the skills you're going to need. How do you have a difficult conversation? That's a book I recommend on my books on my Instagram. Read that book, because that's a book you need to have. And you need to learn how to have difficult conversations, assertiveness skills, self-worth, you know, and knowing how to draw boundaries is very much related to self-worth. These are things you need to work on, and the rest of the stuff becomes a little bit easier. Chronic illness, unemployment, lack of job security are realities that cause stress, and changing my narrative doesn't really change the reality of the situation. The reality, you know, there's a book called Making Man's Search for Meaning, and it's by Viktor Frankl, and he's a Holocaust survivor, and he was in the Holocaust, you know, concentration camps, and he says, meaning, suffering ceases to be suffering when you make meaning out of that suffering. And so I know people that have cancer that know they're going to die in 3 weeks, but they are happy. Why is that? They have chronic illness, they have terminal illness, but they've made meaning out of that. They've done something with that. Trauma does not result in stress disorder. There is something called PTSD, post-traumatic stress growth, where people that went through the same traumas as two groups of people, they went through war zones, and they went through death, and they went through destruction, and they saw their teammates or their platoon mates getting killed, and bodies everywhere, and chaos, and, you know, absolute, you know, madness when it comes to certain things. One group is traumatized. They have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Another group, when they do the work, have post-traumatic stress growth. They appreciate life more. They have deeper relationship with the people that are in their life. They have meaning, they have purpose. They live life with intention. So no, I will disagree. And I've gone through very difficult times in my life, very difficult times in my life, where I have actually experienced many of those things that you are mentioning. It isn't about the event, and I will hold it. And I'm not saying you deny the pain. You, like I said, with the post-traumatic stress growth group, they did the work. When I say the work, they felt the feelings, and it was hard, and they named it, and they felt it, and they released it, but they were just optimistic about the fact that this is not my reality, and I can change that, and I know how to make meaning of this. And they can, you know, Viktor Frankl, the same guy, he basically said that, you know, they can take away everything from you, everything. They can take away your job, they can take away your life, they can, you know, when I mean, like the life that you set up for yourself, your house, your, you know, the things you own, your family. His wife got killed, his children, his parents, everybody died. You know, they can take away everything, but they cannot take your power to choose how you will respond, your power to have the attitude to that situation. They can't take that away. You can take away everything from me, but you can't break me, because my attitude about this is that this is here to teach me something. I know I'm supposed to learn something from this. I know I'm going to get tougher from this. And I know that there's going to be an end to this, because that's just what I believe. So optimism is a way of believing and living life that, okay, this is it for now. We're just got to get through this. Put your head down, keep working, you know, and keep moving. And that this isn't going to be the way it is forever. And so when you change that relationship with the trauma, immediately you move into a place of post-traumatic stress growth. So I actually would apply the absolute same principles. And I cannot emphasize, stress is not deadly, guys. It is our chronic stress is, right? No matter what when I talk about my burnout, I was doing things I loved and excited about, but I was not doing the basics. I was not sleeping. I was not eating. I was not exercising. I was not doing any of these. I was work. And that resulted in a depressed, burnt out state. And so going back to doing the basics. And now I know that if I don't get this done, there ain't nothing happening 3 months from now. So doing the basics is absolutely essential. And doing that in addition to your attitude about it, that this is a challenge, this is stimulating, this is my life calling, this is my life's purpose, this is my life's meaning. And I am grateful for the things I have. I am grateful for this, and I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for this. And remember, guys, our wiring is for the negative. Evolutionarily speaking, we would not have survived this long if we woke up every morning and said, oh, yesterday was a great day. No, evolutionarily speaking, we were like out in the jungles or the savannas, and we had to think about, okay, what went wrong yesterday? Because 2 of our tribe members got killed by that lion. So we need to make sure that we don't get killed by that lion. And this is how we evolved. We would not have survived if we didn't think about all the things that can possibly go wrong. So evolutionarily speaking, our brain is actually Velcro for negative events, and our brain is Teflon for positive events. So you have to stay with the positive event a whole lot longer in order for it to stick. This is why gratitude journals are so important. This is why when I post things about memorizing the moment. So when you're going for a walk and the weather is just spot on, you stay with the weather for 3 deep breaths. Oh my God, I love this weather. I love this weather. I love this weather. And then you get on with your walk. You memorize the moment and then it sticks. Mostly we're like, oh, the weather was so great. But if I ask you, what did you do yesterday? You'll tell me all the bad things that happened, because those things stick more. Evolutionarily speaking, that's what was needed. But if you start memorizing those moments, I promise you, you will start to remember all the things that went right. Like I had a cup of tea, which was like exactly the right temperature. And I was like, oh, I love it. And so it was like, I'm going to memorize this moment. And I memorize my flowers, and I memorize sentences, and I remember my children's faces, and I memorize. This is what needs to happen in order for that muscle in your brain to get built, where you start to become more optimistic. Okay. Yes, I do these kinds of webinars all day, every day. I also do them for companies free of charge, guys. And so if you have a company and you would like me to come speak for that company, I don't charge for my time. Nobody at the Lighthouse does, actually, when we do our public speaking. It's part of our, it's almost like a social enterprise in that sense, where we do all of our public speaking for free of charge. We only charge for our workshops or the longer ones, but these 1.5 hour talks we usually do without charge. So now I have to get on a call and I'm going to go, but this will be, if I didn't answer your question, because there are a couple that I didn't answer, but there was one question: if you're married to a type A personality, is it equally stressful or no? You just have to know that person and just be like, you ain't ruining my zen. And if there are times where, like, maybe this has happened. I admit, I feel ashamed to say it, but where my husband was like, listen, man, we need to take separate cars, because I was like, oh, because like I said, I'm recovering and I'm still working on it. And so there are days where I'm just like fully charged and it's like, move faster. And okay, we have 15 minutes, but it's like, I just need to get there as fast as I can. And so he's like, would you prefer if we take separate cars in the morning? And that way he can ease into his day. So it's a choice, where if you are with a type A person, I just happen to be that person, then you have the choice to say, listen, you like really stress me out in your way of being. I love you. I appreciate you, but you do you and I'll go do me. And that way we don't have to like ruin each other's like moments, but it's okay. I think it's okay if you do that. And so drawing some boundaries around that will be okay. I give my husband permission. That actually, I swear to you guys, I swear that happened this morning. And so I'm still working on it. Oh, But right now, like I said, it's those 2 weeks in October that like get really stressful. Anyways, so okay, guys. So thank you for your time. I also do Instagram lives. If you guys have topics you want to know more about, please direct message me, because I would really like to speak to those particular issues rather than just make up stuff that I think is important. But yeah, I'm always doing these. So I will hope to see you guys again soon. And thank you for being with me. And I look forward to seeing you all again. Bye. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.